Hey guys, second mention with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the iPhone 13 Pro that was just recently released with the last year's model of the iPhone 12 Pro Max here. The Max versus the Pro comparison. This is not a Pro to Pro comparison, so we don't want you guys to get confused with that. In this video, we're going to kind of talk about some of the highlighted differences in terms of hardware, software, overall build quality, price point, and all of that, and finally conclude with what you should consider when you're taking a look at both of these two phones. But before we dive into today's video, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news reviews and giveaways, so make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Also, if you guys are in the market for any of these devices at a discounted price, make sure you guys check out the links in the description section. So let's go ahead and talk about between these two phones what you can expect here. Of course, the Max here that we have, it's going to be the bigger phone. That's why you have that bigger box versus the Pro one, which is not the Max edition one. Of course, it's a little bit smaller in terms of body size. That's why it's called Max, not the Pro Max here for the 13 here. Of course, that's a different phone itself altogether. And one thing to note is when we start to unbox this phone, which if you guys haven't checked the unboxing video, make sure you guys check those out. It's going to be in the box with the iPhone 12 lineup. What Apple has done is take away pretty much everything from the boxes here. The only thing you're left with is that USB-C cable that you get and that little pamphlet here which gives you the SIM card tray and a sticker in there. You don't get that wall adapter that used to be available on the iPhone 11 lineup with that 18 to 20 watt power adapter that you have to buy separate. And of course, there's no headphones anymore, so Apple really wants you to use AirPods, really trying to push people to buy more, pay more, just purchase more expensive stuff. That's sort of what Apple comes to. So let's go ahead and without getting into much detail in terms of price point, what kind of price you're looking at. Well, the here 64, this model that we have is the 128 gig model, the base model that you can get on the 13 here. It's going to be selling on Apple's website for $999. So you're paying $1,000 phone. The 12 Pro Max here gonna be, well, it started the original price of $1099 again with that 128 gig, but you can't actually get this model any longer. So Apple has discontinued this model on their website, and that's something we don't really understand why Apple does that. They do have the regular 12 and the 12 mini, but not the Pro or the Pro Max of the 12 lineup. So they're really trying to get you to buy the 13 Pro Max again, which starts at $1099, what used to be the price for the regular 12 Pro Max here. So that's going to be one thing. So this phone, you're probably going to be looking around if you can get it from a carrier, or the links that we provided from eBay or Amazon is probably the best bet because Apple no longer sells the phone. Now let's talk about one thing that's going to be with these two phones. It's going to be the color choices you get here. As you can see, we have the silver one. You can actually get both of the phones in silver, gold, and graphite. Those are the base colors for the Pro and the Pro Max lineup. But this special color comes with the iPhone 13 like it did with the iPhone 12 Pro and the Pro Max. You had specific blue, but now we have this color known as Sierra Blue. So that's going to be the premium color choice that you get, which seems to be the popular color choice, especially when people go about buying it. It seems Apple's starting to run out sometimes with this model. Sometimes you have to wait longer to get that device. You'll notice between these two phones, when you do take a look at side-by-side comparison, the Max here, again, bigger phone. It's a 6.7 inch display phone versus 6.1, almost 0.6 inch bigger in terms of screen size. Both of the phones actually have Super Retina HDR XDR display here. So if you look at it, the one thing you'll notice between these devices in terms of their display, if you're purely looking at it, is that 128 refresh rate for the very first time on the iPhone lineup we see here with ProMotion, unlike the regular 12 Pro Max here does 60 hertz. So that's going to be the biggest difference. The other biggest difference in terms of display is going to be the Max Bright nit in these display here. So if you really go down and take a look at it, especially if you go outdoors and really compare this Max Bright nit, is that on the iPhone 13 Pro you get 1000 nit of max brightness versus 800 nits of brightness on it, so 200 more on it. So basically just a brighter display in terms of the max nit of brightness here. Again, between these two phones, when the other things to consider, it's going to be the weight the Max, of course, bigger phone, weighs a little over 8 ounce. On the 13 Pro here weighs just a little over 7 ounce, so almost 1 ounce difference between these two phones. Of course, both of the phones are splash water, dust resistant. They're IP68 rated, which means you can take it a maximum depth of 6 meters up to 30 minutes. But because both of the phones are both front and back being glass, you do want to be very careful, especially when it comes to any sort of damage from any drops or anything like that. There will be water compromise between these two devices. Now let's talk about the next thing, which is going to be the battery life on these phones. So the battery between them are going to be slightly different size battery, and that's going to give in because bigger body phone means Apple can put in a bigger battery here, and that's where we're going to look at. So on the 13 Pro you get a 3100 mAh battery compared to almost 3700 mAh battery on the Pro Max here. So almost 600 mAh difference between the battery. Because it's a bigger display, it needs bigger power. But essentially when you do benchmark testing, one thing you look at is going to be your video playback. So between these video playback, although the 12 Pro Max does have a 3700 mAh battery, you get around 20 hours of video playback. On the 13 Pro here, you get 22 hours of video playback. You get slightly more video playback. Now, that's only purely on video playback. There's other tests that you can do, which, again, we won't break it down, but when you go into it, it's going to be different for both of the phones here. Now, let's talk about the efficiency of the chipset on it. Again, Apple, when they release, every time they release a phone, they pretty much say that it has the smartest or fastest chip ever on a smart device, and that's the case with the A15 Bionic chip that's on the iPhone 13 Pro here. You have A14 Bionic chip on the Pro Max here. Across that, you have other things like this, the GPU. Again, if you're a gaming person or like to do a lot of heavy graphic gaming, this is where it's going to matter for you because you get 5 cores of GPU versus only 4 core on the 12 Pro Max. So that's going to be a slight difference, but it's something that we want to mention. Of course, the next thing we want to talk about, it's going to be camera. So in terms of camera, both of the phones, again, head to head in terms of camera, they both have, as you can see here, those 3 12 megapixel camera. But one thing to note is they pretty much have pretty big camera. The one thing you do notice is that those cameras on the 12 Pro seems like they almost were transferred over to the 13 Pro, although this is not the max version of it. You see these bigger lens simply just slapped on probably. But if you look at the details in terms of the actual focus lens, again, it might not be something you really care about, but if you're a person that is looking at that between these two phones, this is going to be where you see slight difference. For the telephoto one on the 13 Pro, you have a 2.8 versus only a 2.2 on the 12 Pro Max here. And the other thing to note is that on the ultra wide angle, we see a 4.1 versus only a 1.8 on the 13 Pro. So it almost seems that, give or take, the lenses are slightly different, but they do about the same. The one feature on the 13 Pro that's not available on the 12 Max is going to be that cinematic mode, as you see here. That's going to be able to help you record pretty much film grade video. That's probably what Apple wants you to get that. You also will get this other feature known as photographic style. So if you go into camera setting here, there's something cool, but essentially what Apple has done is that it has preset couple of options for you to be able to take pretty much photographic style already preset directly on your camera. So if you like one of these styles, you can pretty much set that and have your photos be taken that way. Now, let's go ahead and go down into what you need to know between these two phones. Of course, in terms of software, both of the phones can be upgraded to iOS 15 here. We did review video for you guys. We upgraded both of the phones. So if you guys haven't checked it out, make sure you guys check it out. They're both stable on iOS 15, although, of course, the 13 Pro was meant to run on iOS 15. iOS 14 was the version that was released on the 12 Pro Max, so that's going to be thing to note here, but doesn't mean it can't run well on the latest version of the updates, and that's the case here. Now, when you're looking at the software update, of course, because in terms of just the way Apple works is that you're going to get one more year of major update between these two devices. It's probably going to be what you see in the long run. So software wise, stable, pretty well. You get to take advantage of all the neat features like focus mode, live text, updated maps, weather apps, all of that, custom updates to Safari here, all of that, drag and drop, and much more, which we explained to you guys in another video. So now let's really talk about the key differences and why you might buy one versus another. So the reason to buy the 13 Pro versus the 12 Pro Max, well, first thing, it's going to be probably the biggest thing is going to be resolution here, right? You get that crisp, buttery 120 hertz resolution. That's going to be one thing to consider. Next thing to probably consider, it's that max bright in it that we talked about. You almost get 29% higher max brightness, and of course, along with that is that the one thing we didn't mention is that with these cameras, although a lot of the camera differences are about the same, the rear camera on the 13 Pro is 3 times the optical zoom. And again, because the 13 Pro here is a narrower phone, it fits better in your palm. It's a 6.6 millimeter narrower if you really look at it. And again, it's when that narrow, it comes also smaller phones mean it weighs a little bit less. By a little bit we mean 22 grams less than the Max version here. Now, why might you get the Max? Of course, the 12 Max here, it has 0.6 inch bigger display. So when it comes to Netflix or watching videos and such, it's, you know, it gives you a better feel to it because now you have a bigger screen. You don't need to grab like a tablet or something, especially if you watch a lot of movies and videos. It definitely feel like it's much better than watching on, of course, a 6.1 inch. 6.7 of course is the better choice here. The other thing to note is that the battery on the Max here actually is better by 12%, so it lasts a little longer in terms of length. If you're really looking for durability, we did mention the video playback on the 13 Pro is actually better. And of course, between these two phones right now, the reason why you might be getting one versus another, it's going to be this last feature is going to be the storage. So Apple, for the very first time on the 13 lineup, Pro and the Pro Max here, have a terabyte of storage, which is going to be another key important thing. So that's sort of like our take on these two phones. Of course, both of the phones by no means are anything less of great phones, and we think they are going to be pretty relevant phone. Upgrading wise, we don't really see why you would upgrade from to another besides probably getting that cinematic camera mode and slight differences between these two phones. Both of the phones are pretty expensive. Even the 12 Pro Max right now here comes close to $900 to $1,000, even if you're buying it from another retailer, since Apple doesn't sell it anymore. So hopefully this video is helpful. We want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about these two phones? Leave a comment in the comment section if you upgraded from one, if you're using one, what your thoughts have been between these devices. And if this video is helpful, please make sure that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.